Now, a lot of people might hear others describe us as people with Asperger's or people with autism, but what people don't realize is that it's actually hate speech. But unfortunately, some people think it's the polite thing to say. It really isn't. Also, a lot of well-meaning people will call us people with Asperger's, and when they say it, they'll say people with Asperger's when they really mean people with these specific traits. I've even had people in our group say people with Asperger's, and when some people say syndrome, they actually mean a specific set of traits. And professionals, we have a professional in our group as well. He sometimes refers to us as on the spectrum, which is well-meaning, which just means to him the group of these people that are Asperger's, but it is hate speech because when others say the same thing, they mean something very different. There's a lot of horrid people out there pushing this pretty disgusting narrative where AS or Asperger's or autism is magically separate from the person, and basically they think of us as some sort of disease or defect. And you might be thinking, oh no, I would never mean it like that, and if you're one of those people, I officially pardon you. Am I not merciful? But I do ask in return that you just remove it from your lexicon. Just don't say that sort of thing anymore. You have to realize that when all these horrid people out there, when they say people with Asperger's, what they really mean is people with a disease. And when they say syndrome, they mean they're talking about an affliction. When they say disorder, what they really mean is that we're defective in some way. When we are, that's not even close to what we are. Let me be very clear about this. When you are talking about Asperger's or autism or the spectrum in general, you are talking about who we are as people. You're actually talking about us. You're talking about people. You're talking about who and what we are. You're talking about part of our identity. Okay, and it's not two separate things. It's not a situation where, say for example, you don't carry around your Asperger's or your autism like a purse or a wallet or some nonsense like that. It's part of who you are as a person. If you were to remove Asperger's and autism from the person, which you can't, it's part of the person. It's a bit like saying, get a loaf of bread and then remove all the flour from the loaf of bread. It's like, no, you can't do that. When you remove the flour, what you are left with is something that does not resemble bread in any way, shape, or form. But and you try to talk to people about this, and they sort of wave it off as I don't know, a bit. What's the word I'm looking for? They sort of see it as controversial. They don't see it as they sort of can't wrap their head around it. And you ask them, do you have an example of the person and the Asperger's being separate from each other? And they don't provide any kind of proof as to proving this pretty disgusting narrative, and they just say shit like you are not your affliction, and it's like Another thing they do is they compare us to diseases, which is always wonderful. You would be surprised how often how many times I've actually been compared to things like, say, cancer or AIDS or whatnot. You know, cancer is not what we are, okay? And they'll try and explain this person-first language as being the polite and politically correct way you refer to us or identify us as. And they'll use an example like, we don't say cancerous people, we say people with cancer. And cancer is nothing like the spectrum, okay? Cancer is a disease. We are not a disease. With cancer, we can actually detect that medically with all our, wondrous, medical technology. And, being born an AS person is not something you can detect medically. And, another difference is for cancer, right? If untreated, you will eventually die from cancer, and you'll die quite painfully. Whereas being born on the spectrum, that's not a disease or a death sentence of some sort. It doesn't, if left untreated, in quotes, you aren't going to die or be in any kind of pain or something like that. And the reason they compare us to diseases like cancer, for example, is they find part of us so loathsome, it's so disgusting to them that they hate it so much that they would call it a disease. And that is why it's hate speech. That's why it's used by these hateful people. Basically, they don't value who we are as people. Rather, they view us as inferior, obviously, and they view us as this disease or defect. When in reality, they don't know the first thing about us. So basically, you do want to. Well, I think you should. I think you should remove it from your lexicon if you're one of the people that regularly say this or think it's acceptable to say. Because what is going to happen eventually is you're going to start alienating people. Because it used to be, well, I'll give you an example. We used to say Chinaman, we used to say Oriental, we used to say nigger, and we don't say those things anymore. Well, let me put it in perspective, because some people will say those things but not mean it in the offensive way. And obviously, if people say to me, if they say people with Asperger's in my presence, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, obviously. But and there are people that do mean it the innocent way, like they don't mean to say it in a hateful way. But there's always that little voice in the back of your head that says, "Oh, do they really mean it the innocent way? Do they really mean it that way, or do they mean it the hateful way? Do they think? Or does this person think I'm inferior, or does this person think I'm a disease or defect, or what does this person really mean when they say people with Asperger's?" That's what will be in the back of your head when people say this to you. Yeah, so that is why just remove it from your lexicon. Just don't say it anymore, because it is how incredibly hateful people use to describe us. They do think we are a disease and a defect, and that's what they use to describe us. So to give you some alternatives, I'll just give you a few alternatives. For example, Aspergian. You can't go wrong with Aspergian. Basically, that's just Asperger's itself, I suppose. Also, Aspie, although this, the word Aspie, that's more for kids, or cute girls perhaps. Well, you can call cute girls Aspie. That's not a problem. But I suppose it's not a big deal either if you call an adult an Aspie. It's a little bit silly, but it's not a huge deal. Autistic people, or just autistic. If they have the specific DX for autistic. Another one would be AS people, which stands for autistic spectrum people. You can't really go wrong with that. It encompasses the entire spectrum. So yeah, right, see you later. See ya. Bye for now.